Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Podman Community Meeting. Today is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. Just as a reminder, we have this meeting every other month on the even-numbered months. We talk about all things Podman or containers with any kind of demo or discussions along those lines. Topics are driven by people sending me stuff or me asking people or people coming along or sometimes within our groups being asked to set something here. And again, anything for Podman, Buildoscopio, or any other, it'll probably be helpful if I actually shared my screen as well. Buildoscopio and related projects. I'll be taking meeting notes today within the HackMD. If you see something that I've put in that's incorrect, or you want to add a link or something to that, please feel free to do so. And then for today, we will be talking about Netavark Plugins with Paul Halsinger. Then Ashley will be doing a Podman Machine OS demonstration for us. And then Matt will be talking about Podman updates to the database that we're working on right now. They're coming out soon. And then we'll be talking about topics for next meeting and or any open discussions that you want to have. So with all that, I'm going to stop presenting and I'm going to hand it over to Paul.
Okay, I'm going to share the screen. So Netavark Plugins is for us a way to manage certain extra wishes which you want in your network setup. So with CNI, where you could customize a lot, you could write your own plugins, and Netavark only supported Bridge, Make VLAN, and now IP VLAN. And that's good, but not enough for some users. So with the next version, we're going to introduce plugin support in Netavark, and I'm going to show really quick. I have a small example written in Rust. So the concept is pretty simple. Your plugin can create a network config, then it needs to do a setup, which is like setup would be creating an interface in a container namespace and connecting it to the host. And you can do pretty much what you want. It's whatever you code. And teardown should pretty much be the inverse of setup. So remove the interface again. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I can link the PR afterwards, where there's a documentation how the config JSON looks and how it works pretty much. And with that, I have a simple plugin here, host device plugin. I copied it to the user local libexec Netavark directory, which can be configured in containers.conf. And now if I have the Podman info, I should see under network that it detected the plugin here. And that means I should be able to do a simple Podman network create driver and then host device plugin. And the host device plugin as example is just a very simple one that moves a host interface into the container. And if you stop the container, it will move the interface back to the host. And with that, there's a new option I will add as well. Interface name. And I already created an interface. Like on my host, I have a test1. And then I give a network name. Also test1. So I can show you the interface. Test1. And if you run a container, Podman run network test1 Alpine, and take a look. Test1 was moved in, And if I show again, it's back. So if I run this in the background real quick, just to show that it was really moved, 10 seconds. You see the interface is gone. And if we wait a moment, now I'm to, yeah, now the container stopped, it's back. So that's just a very simple example. You can code whatever you want in there, and I provided a simple Rust interface to automatically take care of so it's a external binary. You have a subcommand for create, for setup, for teardown, and if you use the small Rust binding, it will take care of the setup and stuff, and then you just let me see if I can increase the size. Yes. If you like that's pretty much what you need in your plugin, and you import the trait, and then you must define a create function, a setup function, which gets the path for the network, and then these settings, like the network config. You get all the info you can put in there in the network config and do whatever you like. So if you do the network inspect, so this kind of information your plugin sees as well, and then you can decide what you want to do. And if you use the -- subnet option and stuff, you have the subnets in here, like you are used to if you inspect the normal network. Like you have all the information. And with that, I'm done. If there are any questions, please ask them now or later.
Do you see people modifying CNI plugins to work with this, or that's the goal?
That's the goal. So because we are gonna deprecate CNI at some point, we are gonna remove the support, and to have a way for some people who are currently having their own custom work, they need to adapt to this new one or use a standard driver, or there are many ways to set up network, or even without that you can use a custom network namespace path. But with this, it's pretty simple because the setup and teardown is built into Podman, right, into the container lifecycle, without having to manage anything else. And the advantage to the CNI plugin is that I integrated the support into Podman Network Create as well. So with CNI plugins, custom stuff, you need to manage your config somewhere and place it in the right directory. And with that, you just network create, and there you go.
Very nice.
Any other questions? Great. Thanks, Paul. Look great. Ashley, Podman Machine OS demo.
Yep, I'm going to share my screen. I demoed this already in the container plugin days, but I'm going to show it again for those who aren't at that conference. But basically, we have a new command in Podman Machine called Podman Machine OS apply, or it's a suite of commands. Apply is the only one in there at the current moment. But what it allows you to do is on Fedora CoreOS based systems, which is the default OS for Podman Machine on Mac and Linux, it allows you to take a container image and add packages based on, or build a container image from like a container file and add packages into your VM through RPMOS tree, which is the package manager for Fedora CoreOS. So I'm just going to play my demo over here. So I'm going to start where I'm going to make a new Podman machine. And parts of these are sped up for time's sake, but it's all like, yeah, anyway. And then I'm going to start the machine that I just created. So this is just like kind of your vanilla machine, nothing special inside of it, just your default Podman machine. And then, so I'm going to check the Podman version, and outside the machine is the server inside the machine is 4.4.1, and then the client outside the machine is 4.5. And then, so now I have this container file. It's kind of a standard container file but it has Fedora CoreOS as the base image. And what I'm doing is I'm running RPM OS tree and updating containers or Podman and its friends to the most latest upstream version on main, and also removing a bunch of stuff. And so I'm going to use this container file and build an image. And also tag it correctly, I assume. And then, so this is just a standard Podman build, like there's nothing special in it, a regular Podman build command. And so now we have this image that we just built in our local storage. And then again, checking the Podman version. Inside the VM, it's 4.4.1. Outside, it's 4.5. And now I'm going to do a Podman Machine OS apply to the and specify the image that I just built. And it should apply it to the default Podman machine. You can use, if your Podman machine is, named something else, you can use that as the second argument, and it will apply it into that machine. And then for this to take effect, you have to reboot your machine. And then now, if you take a look at the version inside of the VM, the Podman machine, it's upgraded to 4.5 dev. So you can see, so this feature is like particularly useful for people who want to experiment with different packages and versions of Podman inside inside the machine. So I guess, like, for example, like the desktop team uses this, or can use this if they want the latest upstream version of Podman inside of their Podman machine to like test some stuff. And again, like, it allows users to customize the machine in a familiar way, so you don't have to go and build new VMs and learn like VM tooling. You can use what you know, which is like container files and building images, in order to customize and put whatever you need inside of the VM. By just building images and using Podman Machine OS apply. So that's basically the demo, if anybody has any questions.
So your demo showed you updated from container storage inside of the machine. Is that what's?
Yes.
So could I do that with a registry?
Yes. So it supports anything that like Podman supports, and anything that like Scopio supports. You can pull it from a registry, you can pull it from local, you can do a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
So if I was a company and I wanted to do this, I could push an update to a registry, and then have every one of my users on all the different machines automatically do that machine update from a registry, and everybody would get the same version, correct?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Cool.
I'll just add that I think there were two use cases in mind when we went through this design, and Ashley showed the one where we can run the latest Podman inside the machine, which is great for development and testing. The other one we've had in mind is the folks that are wanting to do various multi-arch or non-native arch builds or runs or testing where they need some QEMU package to be on there, which does not come as a default. So this is an easy way to plop those on real quick and be able to do whatever it is you had in mind.
So 2 weeks from now, a new Core OS comes out and gets updated. What happens then? Do we have to rerun the apply? Rebuild? Do we have to rebuild and then redo the apply, right?
Are you wanting to revert?
No, I'm
Or
just
do you want
saying. So I've added. I guess there's an example. There's a question out on one of the issues. Someone wanted to install QEMU user. I don't know, S390. And, so they install it. They go through this procedure. They install it, and we're running Fedora Core OS 37 and 37.1 comes out.
Sure.
Now they want to update. They're going to have to go through this procedure again to.
If they no longer require the 390 packages, they could just simply take the update, or they could just execute a rebuild, which would, in the container file, would have from, latest, which would mean the new version that Fedora Core OS just made. So then a simple rebuild would be enough to do it. And ideally, users would be doing this off of CI type things or off of GitHub Actions, where if a repo changes, it would just automatically build, and that way they could consume. And then it wouldn't be on the user's shoulders to do that manual work.
Question: if I were to decide to switch back from my custom OS apply to, say, standard FCOS, the stable train, does that put me back on automatic updates, or am I going to have to do something to get back on automatically updating?
So I'm working on the current OS revert. The way that it works right now is it should put you back on automatic updates. Because I think the automatic update driver is called like Syncati, and that if it detects that you're on a regular stream of Fedora, then it should automatically update. From what I've seen, not 100% sure, but from my testing, but it just depends on like what your base was before, I believe.
Okay, any other questions for Ashley?
I was just going to add, when you the one of the things that takes a little getting used to here is we very much have had a feeder in Fedora Core OS, but now this pivot, you have to think of your OS as a container image, and then all those things we've learned about container image maintenance applies. Where they're derived from each other, and things are added or removed as the various images are built, and perhaps even how they're being tagged and versioned.
Righty. Not hearing anything else at this point, so I think I'm going to turn it over to Matt for the Podman Database update.
All right, so this is an update on some internal things on Podman that you should not have to care about, but unfortunately you may have to in the coming future. So Podman has a backend database, and if you're just a Podman user, not a developer, you probably have no knowledge of this because it's used purely for internal things. We use it to store the state of containers, the configuration containers, things like that. And this was previously in something called BoltDB, which is a native Golang embedded database, very simple. And we thought that it did everything we needed. However, over the last year or so, we've become aware of an increasing number of reports of data corruption with BoltDB. To the point where I wouldn't call it common, but if you are to shut your computer down unexpectedly while Bolt is doing something, there is apparently a fairly good chance that you're going to end up with an unusable database, which means all your containers are gone, basically requires complete recreate. So we've been looking into this for a while now, and we came to the conclusion that it was not really safe to continue using BoltDB. It was unmaintained. There was basically no error handling. There was no path to data recovery, and it didn't seem like it would be reasonably possible to create it, or to fix it rather, so that it did not corrupt itself. So we have investigated alternative database solutions, and we now have an alternative database driver written up that uses SQLite instead. So right now, this is just going to be a tech preview thing that is going to come out with the next Podman release, Podman 4.5, over the next couple weeks. And it's not going to be default for now. It's just for people who want to opt into testing it. At some point in the future, probably Podman 4.6, we're going to see about making it the default for new installations. Existing installations will continue to use BoltDB. And at some point in the further off future, we will investigate removing BoltDB completely and basically having only SQLite. And again, primary things you can expect from this transition: one, stability. Podman will stop eating its own database in cases of unexpected power loss. That's obviously a plus. Two, performance in some operations, especially read operations. If you have large quantities of containers and you're doing something like a Podman PS, you can expect a significant performance boost. And three, long-term stability. We feel that SQLite has a much more vibrant and large community than BoltDB does, and as such, there's a lot more potential for future growth there in terms of performance, in terms of stability, potentially features, but we're probably not using those. It's going to be a very simple database driver still. So generally speaking, you probably should not have to care about this for the foreseeable future, but at some point in the future, we are going to be announcing the deprecation and removal of BoltDB. And when we do that, we will have steps for you to take to get on the new SQLite driver if you haven't already. And you probably won't have to, because again, new installations will be switched over to SQLite long before that. And that is a general summary of what to expect with our move to SQLite, why we're doing it, what to expect. Any questions?
Very quiet bunch today. Right, I'm not hearing any questions for that. So I think what we'll do is go on to the open forum and questions. Let's just ask, are there any general questions or comments that you want to make?
I'll ask a question that I potentially know the answer to. When is Podman 4.5 coming out?
Ideally, next week, late next week. We have RC1 just came out yesterday. I'm expecting an RC2 later this week, potentially an RC3 early next week if we feel we need it, and then a final late next week.
Okay, and I guess the other question would be, what versions are going to be showing up in the next version of RHEL?
4.5 will not be one of those. We're expecting our next major drop into RHEL/CentOS Stream is going to be 4.6, which will probably be more of a late summer type of time frame.
So I would follow that up. So right now, Podman 4.4 9.1, I think. Is that right, Tom? Is going to be in rel 9.2 and rel 8.8. As I ask loaded questions.
Yeah, we were expecting a 4.6 in 9.3 and 8.9, I believe. And yeah, generally speaking, we're going to continue on the same sort of cadence we had before. We're targeting 4-ish releases per year Podman, and 2 of those will end up in RHEL from here on out.
Whatever it's worth, the 4.4.1, which will be in Podman 8.8 and 9.2, will be released sometime in early May. And then the 4.6 version will be out sometime in January, I want to say. Or no, February, I think. Getting dates.
Hey.
Yep. Did somebody pop in with a question or comment? Okay. And also, while we're here, anybody have any topic suggestions for the next meeting in June 6th? We have one for a Quadlet demo already.
Well, that would not be a bad time to show off Podman 4.5. We're still firming some things up right now, so we couldn't really demo it today, but we should have a good summary of what's in 4.5 by the next meeting.
Okay, I'll add that. Anybody else or any other questions? Otherwise, we're going to end quite a bit early today, but that's not a bad thing. Okay, then I'll just remind for the next meetings, we are having a meeting on Tuesday, June 6th for the Podman community meeting, which again is the demo kind of meetings. And our next Cabal meeting for the community will be on Thursday, April 20th, which is 2 weeks from this Thursday, I believe. And those meetings are used mostly for design kind of work for Podman or any technical discussions related to the code base, pretty much. And we're always happy to have comments or suggestions or topics for either one of those. Please feel free to send me an email directly or put stuff up in the discussion forums that we have on GitHub for Podman. And unless anybody has anything else, I'm going to end the recording.